the last presentation by Yana Yancheva, who is a senior assistant professor and working at Institute for Ethnology and Folklore Studies with Ethnographic Museum at the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences. Her main interests are in the fields of ethnology, of socialism and post-socialism, collective memory, everyday life, and youth subcultures. And her dissertation focused on the collective memory of agricultural collectivization and the everyday aspects of the cooperative life. I'm sorry. And Yana will be presenting on agricultural collectivization 1940s and 1950s in Bulgarian Memory Studies.
The end of the World War II finds Bulgarian agriculture in the severe crisis. Due to various factors, war, requisitions and black market, the continuing fragmentation of arable land and the increase of the number of small farms. One of the most influential factors on land fragmentation is the traditional system of sharing and inheritance of others' land to distributed in equal shares among all the sons. Also, Bulgarian agriculture since the mid-40s was characterized by outdated equipment, partial and very limited use of modern technique, agro-technical backwardnesses of farmers, and low profitability and the other problems. The idea of collectivization in Bulgarian villages represents a major milestone in the objectives of the agrarian reform and the program of Bulgarian Communist Party. Besides striving to overcome fragmentation and backwardness of agriculture, substantial reason for the implementation of collectivization was the need to stabilize the social structure of the village, as at that time 80% of Bulgarian population was of rural origin. The Communist Party sought to ensure its social base and to legitimize its role as leading party while it was necessary to release labor for the new industries. Collectivization in Bulgarian village was a process that led to profound changes in everyday life and culture of rural population and the whole society. Its aim was almost full and mass establishment of agricultural cooperative farms, which had to integrate peasants' private farms, their lands, forests, domestic animals and workers. Collectivization in Bulgaria was implemented in different socio-economic conditions in the various regions, and the principle of voluntariness was proclaimed as a key principle of the process. It was accomplished in the frame of 3 waves of Musevization, organized mass collectivization campaigns. It began in the second part of the 40s in the flatland regions of the country where agriculture was better developed, and finished in 1958 to 60s in the mountain and poor regions. According to some historians like Migev and Yosifov, Bulgarian collectivization perceived the Stalinist model restraint and forcing measures against the private ownership and initiatives, class struggle against kulaks. Research in the topic of collectivization in Bulgarian village began in the period of socialism, and after 1989 it attracted more serious and critical research interest. The study of memory of collectivization acquired particular relevance in the last 2 decades. This caused the need for reassessment of the recent past by studying the various and often arguing among themselves group memories or interpretations of collectivization, as well as the long-lived dominant socialist official narratives. Overall, the ethnographic science in Bulgaria during the socialist period did not show a significant and defined interest in the study of memory of collectivization or to the ethnographic aspects of its implementation. That's why I will present just the researches produced after 1989. when the political and economic transformations in Bulgaria provoked a corresponding change in the perspective of the study of everyday culture and social phenomena of the period of socialism, including collectivization. Please, can you show slide 3, 4, and 5, one by after? The international Bulgarian-German collective research project Everyday Culture of the Socialist Village of Raduil, this is a village in western Bulgaria. The project was carried out in 1993 till 1997, and it had a significant position among the ethnological studies of Bulgarian socialist village and rural everyday life. It traces the micro-historical and local specificities of the historical events, the local behavioral strategies to deal with the socialist daily life, and the socio-cultural change in villages occurred in a result of collectivization. But the question of collectivization is placed in the context of the whole everyday rural culture. Now, slide 7. The only individual study of the Bulgarian-German project about Raduil, which is analyzing the strategies in remembrance of collectivization, is the article by Dorotea Dobreva, Narratives about the Socialist Village, Coping with the Past and the Present by Means of Narratives. The author uses the approach history by experience, exploring the local population's memory and current assessments of collectivization. However, her research doesn't aim to problematize and study collectivization as a realm of collective memory. She uses recollections as tools for understanding the past by the victim's perspective and comparing their versions with authorities' documented versions. By studying the work of memory in Raduil, Dobreva presents the main theoretical conclusion about the disparity between the standards, the ideals, and the reality in policy in implementing collectivization. The memories of the local people review it as required by the authority process and discuss the topic of violation of the principle of voluntariness. Now, slide 8, please. For the first time, the topic of collectivization in Bulgaria as a realm of collective and individual memory occupies a central research interest in my thesis, Collectivization in Bulgarian Village, 1948 till 1960, Ethnographic Aspects. The study of memory is compared to ideological project and the official gaining publicity narrative about collectivization, which shows the contradictions between the official authorities' promises and its actual policy. Simultaneously, there is another level of comparison between two villages, Brestovica in Plovdiv region, central South Bulgaria, and Mezdreya in Berkovica region, northwest Bulgaria. And its aim is to show the various scenarios of the process for different regions of the country caused by diverse local social and economic specificities, which respectively cause differences in the way the process was accepted, experienced, and remembered by the particular local communities. The analysis reveals how the narrators interpret the facts of their lives and how narratively they construct past events and images. Now slide 9, please. The villages were chosen for several reasons. The history of both villages and collectivization reflect two different aspects of public and political changes in the rural communities from the historical period. Both villages also represent two geographical and ecological categories that determined the primary theoretical and territorial and economic disparities between the agricultural cooperatives in the country. To achieve its objectives, the study was based on the biographical approach, its methods, which are able to reveal the complex and multispectral picture of the individuals and group experiences. They are widely used to study the historical and social changes because they allow understanding the changes in the social and historical experiences of individuals in their beliefs and cultural practices on everyday level, the meanings that people attach to their actions. Simultaneously, the analysis of life stories provides an opportunity to trace relations between the personal experience of the events, the historical act, and the variety of different contemporary viewpoints. The fieldwork was carried out between 2006 and 2008, when 40 biographical and thematic interviews were conducted in each village. Archived documents and pictures were collected. The range of narrators encompasses mostly former cooperative members and workers. The subjective reflection on a particular event, such as collectivization within the larger frame of life story, is bound up with the reflection on memory work and recollection, a major research problem of my work. In this way, the study of collective memory draws on ideas from the works of Hauptwachs, Barbara Michtel, and Jeffrey Olick about memory as a current retrospective interpretation or reproduction of the past. The study takes into account the selective function of memory and its ability to portray events as markers of change. Memory is considered an active and cognitive function capable of extracting events from their historical context and transforming them into symbolic text, which make it possible to understand the identities and the changes in a community's public life. The research perceives collectivization as traumatizing historical situation and social revolutionary change, according to Stomka, but it also reveals its potential positive effect of a social becoming. Therefore, the analysis is interested in the way collectivization was experienced. The analysis is based on the theory of divided memories of different generational units and social groups by Mannheim. The memory of collective trauma is seen as fundamental for the formation of the collective identity of a particular social group or generation, because memory and the ability to reconstruct the past are rooted in the present sense of self-identity. The study argues that the collectivization has been remembered in a different way by the residents of both villages because of the different social, economic, and political conditions under which it was carried out. The first one, as it is reflected in life stories from the village of Mezdria, presents the process as traumatizing a historical situation and social change, which caused disorientation, dislocation of social strata, and disruption of order. The other interpretation is predominant for the population from Brestovica, which sees collectivization as a revolutionary change which successfully enabled economic and social development for the community. The analysis of memories and documents reveals the lack of continuity between the authorities' actions on a local level and the widely propagated official policy of the Communist Party. The cooperative farm in Brestovica was established in 1948 and the Musovization was implemented in 1951. However, people's reflections distinguish two basic notions of implementation of the process, ideological and economic. According to the one, that was an enthusiastic, voluntary and spontaneous process that won the approval of the entire population. According to the other one, the high degree of approval was due to the economic interest of involving in the cooperative and the expectations for financial stability and a steady job. Recollections of both villages outlines significant difference in the terms of the implementation of the principle of voluntariness. In Mezdreya, recollections of all social categories, including the supporters of the regime, denied the official version of mass voluntary cooperation. But contrary to that, in Brestovica, respondents highlight the voluntary nature of the process in the village and demonstrate the need to convince the interviewer that this was a correct and beneficial process. In Mezdreya, collectivization was accomplished in the last stage of the macro process in 1956 to 1958 under the pressure of the party structures. The conflicts between the cooperative management and the private owners take an essential part in the local collective memory. But the most outlined moment in the local memory are the recollections of Massovization as a traumatic experience caused by the violent campaign, as well as the uncertainty brought by the new order. The presence of numerous outsiders, agitators or propagandists, caused fear, panic, and many conflicts with the local population. The image of agitators is central to peasants' memory. Their methods of persuasion and pressure on population are presented in details, as well as the peasant resistance. Agitators are rationalized as foreign, demonic, and obsessing the peasants' familiar world agents who execute brutal physical and psychological pressure in response to farmers' opposition. All in all, collectivization is interpreted by the population in Mezdreya as traumatizing social change that radically changed the continuity of historical and social development of the individuals and the community, destroyed the peasants' known world, and devalued their traditional experience for coping in critical situations, caused a sense of lost identity, undermined the peasants' confidence in their nature and future development. The trauma was reinforced by the fact that the cultural transformations caused by collectivization were carried out faster than people could mobilize their ability to adapt or cope with them. Residents of Mezdreya evaluate the process as violent and unjust. The study of memory indicates that the situation in both villages reflect the conflicting image of collectivization, from peasant support for cooperation to their resistance against it, from enthusiasm and voluntariness to forced cooperation, from notion of successful development of the cooperative farms to the notion of failure of the project of socialist reconstruction of the village, from the notion of cooperation as achieving security for peasants to the idea of robbing their lives, from nostalgia for the socialist past to demand of revenge for the experienced trauma. Collectivization is such a turning point which continues to be active, though not dominant place, of individual, family and collective memory, but it cannot be a realm of shared memory and consent. The viewpoints and memories of the various groups involved in this influential transformation process continue to oppose their mutual moral judgments about the past. Now please slide 10 and after that 11. The same methods and theoretical framework characterizes my research of collectivization as a realm of collective memory, but this time among Bulgarian diaspora inhabiting the area of Bessarabia in South Moldova and in Odessa region, Ukraine. The collectivization of agriculture in Bessarabia, which was a simultaneous process in both former Soviet republics, was carried out in the period of 1946 until 1949. Processes such as deportation and decolonization were initiated in the region with a particular intensity which had already been completed in the rest part of the USSR, because this part of Bessarabia was for 22 years under the Romanian rule, and it was joined to the USSR after 1940s. Due to the new economic plan, The rural population of Ukraine and Moldova was charged with excessive taxes once again, but this time taxes affected also Bulgarian settlements in southern Bessarabia. This process was accompanied by devastating droughts, which significantly reduced the yield of grain. To meet the targets, all grain stocks were confiscated, which caused famine in Bessarabia in that period. The results of the research of memory among Bessarabian Bulgarians have shown that memories of collectivization are closely related and even dominated by the memories of the famine in Ukraine and Moldova in the second half of the 1940s. The reason for this is the overlap of the two events in time, and above all, the much more traumatic experiencing of famine and the seizing of the peasants' grain stockpiles compared to their conflicts concerning collectivization. This fact is clearly reflected in the collective memory of Bessarabian Bulgarians in both former Soviet republics, whose recollection reflect the diverse strategies for managing the situation and show that peasants' voluntary involvement to kolkhozes was mainly due to the need to provide food and physical survival for their families. At the same time, the memories and narratives of those affected indicate that some of them realize the Stalinist authorities' aspirations to structure the local communities and to make them a part of the Soviet society, and especially they understand that the state owned the mechanisms for managing the hunger earlier, but the famine was intentionally continued in order to suppress the living and resistance power of the population. For Bessarabian Bulgarians from both countries, Moldova and Ukraine, it is common that most personal and family stories are characterized by the lack of recollections of the Massovization and forced dekolokization as major events organized by the government. This conclusion doesn't deny the existence of such a state policy, it only indicates that it has not become a significant point of the collective memory. It was due to the fact that at the same time the local population experienced famine and deportation. The study of collective memory of collectivization among Bessarabian Bulgarians from Moldova and Ukraine presents an analysis of life stories whose holders are characterized by different social profile, men and women, different age groups of those born between the late 20s and mid-50s, various professions. The majority of them were kolkhoz workers in the field, tractor drivers, but also employees, teachers, private entrepreneurs. All stories and recollections include retrospective assessment of the past, which often confronts the ideological persuasion and the past beliefs of the interviewees. The two recent studies on collectivization in Bulgaria and in Bessarabia analyze for the first time the topic of this process in the terms of its place in the collective and individual memory of contemporaries. They show that it is possible to study the memory of collectivization and other aspects of socialist village with the help of the comparative approach. The comparison between memory and the ideological project and the official public narrative about collectivization shows the contradictions between the authorities' official promises and its actual policy. The researchers show that collectivization is a multifaceted process that cannot be seen and evaluated unilaterally.